If a payment method is specified for an item or for an account in the master data, the system will not usually run incoming payments. Unless the item or account has a payment block, the payment program is responsible for collecting these payments.
Each item to be done is assigned a dunning level according to the number of days the item is in arrears. Each dunning procedure contains up to 9 dunning levels. The wording of the dunning notice is usually influenced by the dunning level. The higher the dunning level, the stricter the message in the dunning text. For invoice-related credit memos, the system uses the dunning level of the invoice. The dunning level can only be raised by one from one dunning level to another. This means you cannot skip any dunning levels. When setting up a dunning procedure, the number of days in arrears is taken as the default on the dunning level screen. The line item grace period's value is proposed as the first dunning level. For the rest of the dunning levels, the system adds the dunning interval in days value to the number of days the previous dunning level is in arrears. Hint: you can override these default values, but it is not recommended. Dunning procedures with only one dunning level are referred to as payment reminders. These procedures are used for important customers and public corporations. By using these procedures, you can ensure these customers only receive a payment reminder. By assigning dunning keys to certain items, you can prevent those items from exceeding a certain dunning level. The total amount of all the items in an account with a certain dunning level must be greater than a defined minimum amount. The relationship between the total amount and the total open items must be greater than a minimum percentage. If this is not the case, the system sets the items to a lower dunning level. Hint: usually, the minimum amounts and percentages at higher dunning levels are greater than the minimum amounts and percentages at lower levels.
You can only dun the account if at least one item reaches the permitted minimum number of days in arrears for the account. In the figure, the conditions for account dunning are as follows. Item 1 is overdue and must be dunned, but the minimum number of days in arrears has not been reached. Item 2 is overdue, but it is still within the grace period. Item 3 is overdue and must be dunned, but the minimum number of days in arrears has not been reached. Item 4 is overdue and the minimum number of days in arrears in the account has been reached. This means that items 1, 3, and 4 are dunned. Item 2 is not dunned because it is still within the line item grace period. The account gets the highest dunning level out of all the items to be dunned. If all the items are dunned with one dunning notice, the system words the dunning text according to the highest dunning level. The dunning levels are not entered in the items or the accounts yet. This happens later on when the system prints the dunning notices. However, the system has already determined the dunning levels.
After the dunning data is determined, the system checks whether the dunning process is necessary. Normally, it is not necessary to send a dunning notice if the dunning data has not changed since the last dunning run. The system only duns an account if it fulfills one of the following conditions. The dunning data changed since the last dunning run. The Always Dunning Notice indicator is selected for the dunning level. This option is usually selected for the last dunning level and for payment reminders, that is, dunning procedures that comprise only one dunning level.
If the start date of the legal dunning procedure is entered in the account master data, the account is always dunned as long as the account fulfills one of the following conditions. After the system creates the dunning proposal, a clerk can edit it. You can print the following lists to support the clerk's work: the dunning statistics, the dunning list, the blocked accounts, the blocked line items, the dunning history. You can display a sample printout on the screen. The system saves the changes to the dunning proposal. Note, if you are not going to print the dunning proposal, you have to delete it. Otherwise, it blocks the items you selected for processing in other dunning runs.
The clerk can perform the following actions: block an account in the current dunning proposal or remove the dunning block. Block a line item in the current dunning proposal or remove the dunning block. Lower the dunning level of an item in the current dunning proposal. Change the dunning and correspondence data of an account in the master record. This change does not apply to the current dunning run. You need to delete and restart the dunning run for the changes to take effect. Change a document. This change does not apply to the current dunning run. You need to delete and restart the dunning run for the changes to take effect. Only changes in the dunning proposal apply to the current dunning run. You can raise or lower the dunning level as needed in the master data and documents.
The last step in the dunning process involves printing the dunning notices. The print program for the dunning procedure performs the following. The printing program groups items to be done with the dunning notice according to various rules. The program generates a dunning notice for each group. The program enters the dunning date and dunning level in the list of done items and accounts. The system prints dunning notices in a sequence defined by sort criteria. If you need to send dunning notices to one-time customers, only update the dunning data for relevant items. For information about undoing changes to dunning data in accounts and documents, see SAP Note 6591. Items to be done can be grouped together in dunning notices if they have the same company code, dunning area, and account. The system groups the items of a one-time account in a single dunning notice if they have the same address. You can group items by the following criteria: dunning by dunning level, grouping key, decentralized processing. You can use cross-company code dunning to combine overdue items from different company codes in one dunning run. The overdue items from one customer in separate company codes are done with a single dunning notice. This means you do not have to send the customer a separate dunning notice for each company code. The system groups the overdue items according to predefined rules, such as dunning levels, dunning areas, or dunning grouping, and assigns them to one or more dunning notices. If you want to dun separate company codes at the same time, you have to assign the relevant company codes to a shared dunning company code. The system uses the dunning procedure assigned to the account in the dunning company code. The system checks the dunning frequency and dunning blocks individually from each separate dunning company code. Note, if a date for the legal dunning procedure for an account has been specified in the dunning company code, this also affects the dependent company codes.
The figure Dunning Text Control shows a sample dunning form. The form layout is defined with SAP script. Texts in italics. Texts in italics are controlled by the variables used in the dunning formulas. Standard texts. Standard texts are available for entering the company code or dunning area data in a company code independent form. The example in the figure contains the following standard texts: ADRS_header, ADRS_sender, ADRS_signature, and ADRS_footer. You have to assign these to a company code and a dunning area, which is optional. Dunning recipient. The dunning recipient can be different from the address of the dunned account. Dunning or accounting clerk. If there is no specific dunning clerk attached to the master data, the screen displays the accounting clerk. Dunning interest. The dunning interest depends on the dunning level. The system calculates dunning interest using an interest indicator. You can use minimum amounts for interest. Payment deadline. To prevent the payment deadline from falling on a holiday, the system assigns a public holiday calendar ID to the dunning procedure. Total due items from dunning level. The system calculates the total of all the due items from a specified dunning level using the total in the dunning text. Sorted list of dunned items or all items. All items are generally printed at higher dunning levels to provide the customer or vendor with an overview of the overall account balance. Items with a dunning block or a collection method are not displayed. If you select the dunning notices for each dunning level option, you cannot print a list with all the items. Items with special dunning key. Items with a special dunning key can be printed separately. Dunning charges. Dunning charges depend on the dunning level and can be either a fixed amount or a percentage of the dunned amount. You can set a minimum amount for the dunning charges.
The table offers a description of the various dunning text controls available. The dunning notice must only contain items with the company code currency. The payment program can create a payment advice note containing the items in the dunning notice. When the customer pays the dunned amount, you can use this advice note to assign the incoming payment to the relevant items. The payment advice number has 10 digits and starts with 08. You have to define the payment advice type 08 in the configuration settings. You can print the payment advice number on the dunning notice and the payment form, for example, in the reference field.